Kern Watts here with Growth Mindset, here with Orlando. Once again, a reminder, growth mindset, we're looking to grow every single day. And the growth mindset is to continually grow, and that you're never fixed, and your mind and your body can always grow. Today for our topic, we'd like to discuss death and how we deal with it, and dealing with loved ones that have passed as well. Anything you want to say to start, Orlando?
I don't know. This is a topic that I kind of not that you ever want to talk about it, but I've been through it. I lost my mother about 10 years ago, and lost my dad about 7, and my grandmother so lost quite a few people, and so dealing with it is always a little bit hard. So I think some people who don't know the pitfalls of it sometimes can fall into a deep depression. So it's a good conversation to have, so people know that they're not alone, and maybe to see what other people kind of do in order to get over that hump.
Yeah, I would agree. I've lost loved ones as well. My uncle to bone marrow cancer, and both my grandmothers, and obviously my grandfathers as well. But it hits everybody differently, and I think one of the key things you will never know before it happens is how you will react when it happens.
Mm-hmm.
But the more you can grow and know yourself and learn from your life experiences, you can never equip yourself enough, right, for this stuff. But I think to reflect
Yeah.
is a key point for anyone to deal with any type of adversity. Is reflect on yourself, what you're portraying and what you want to portray, right? For myself, when those things have occurred to me, what I opt to do is reflect on the relationships and the time that I had with them. I think everybody gets there at a certain point, but there's different stages, right? And that the reflecting on the time is key for me, because I think about myself in the future and what I want to be, and depending on how close that person was to me, what did they do to shape or mold me to be better in the future, and in the value that individual brought to my life, in terms of the experiences. It's this topic was brought up as well because there's someone that passed that both Orlando and myself know, and the first thing we did was start talking about the experiences we had with that individual, how they shaped our lives, and how if we would be who we are today, and our thought process that individual molded. So I think that reflection is key. It's part of the I guess a coping mechanism as well.
No, absolutely. I know for myself, like when my mother passed away, it was pretty difficult. But one of the things that kind of happened, I mean, you never really prepare for death, but she always used to have talks with me. My mother was like a best friend to me, and she would always say, "Son, some of the things that I do, and some of the conversations that we have, is to prepare you to be the man of your household, right? And it's to prepare you to be the man that I feel you're destined to be. So sometimes it might not feel like it's fair. You might feel slighted for whatever reason, but just know I'm always trying to prepare you to be the best version of yourself." And you never really know, or I never really knew what she meant when she was in that process of teaching me and telling me and showing me, right? You're just like, man, I don't want to hear this. But when she passed away, it took me a while to grieve, just for a lot of things. But then it was like maybe a year after, and I was sitting there, and I just started having, because the first thing that kind of goes, and this is just a side note and a tidbit for people, is like, record your loved one's voice. I mean, you never you never forget what they look like. I know vividly exactly how my mom looks, but what I forget is her voice, her laughter. And I was fortunate enough that my older brother actually caught a conversation on his phone once, and so that's kind of like the recording that we use to remind us of her voice. But that's the first thing that you forget is somebody's voice, that sweet tender voice, that beautiful laugh, or even when somebody is like smiling, uh like you can tell when somebody's speaking that they're smiling, so it just lights up the room, even if it's just on a recording. So that's one of the things that I kind of took from it. Like you make sure that you record that. But back to my story, what I was saying, and so now I'm kind of reflecting and I'm thinking about what she was saying, and essentially what she was just really teaching me was life without her. And she was just showing me that, hey, I love you, and I'm not going to be here forever. So what I need to do in a roundabout ways, I got to teach you how to fish. I can't catch the fish for you, but I'm going to teach you how to fish. I'm going to teach you how to deal with your emotions. I'm going to teach you how to be a good husband. I'm going to teach you how to be a good father, even if you don't have kids right now. And so yeah, I never really seen those lessons, or you see the lessons while you're going through it, but you don't appreciate it until you really get older and you reflect back on it and you're like, wow, that's what she was trying to get at, right? That's what she was saying. And so what I do know, and from my experiences, you have two choices when you face death, right? Like when somebody dies, because that's inevitable, right? Like as soon as somebody's born, you know they're gonna die. Like it's gonna happen. So you can either become a better person or you can become a worse person. But one thing that's not gonna happen is you're never gonna stay the same. Like
Yeah.
that's just not gonna happen. So what I chose to do was made sure that I remembered all the good times that my mother and I had, and I remembered all the conversations that we had. And never in her conversations did she ever say, I want you to be bitter when I'm gone. I want you to throw your life away when I'm gone. Because when I'm gone, we all die. Like she never said that. She always said, you're my legacy and you have to do better than what I did. So I took that as, you know what? Like now, she's gone. So I have to make sure now that I'm a way better version of myself than I was before. And so I always kind of look at, if I did this, would my mother be proud? Right. And that's kind of like what I try to stand for. Even when I talk to my friends and we're saying something, I'm like, man, I don't know if I can do that. Like to me, like if I did that, I don't think I would be proud of myself. So when you hear me say I don't think I'd be proud of myself in the morning if I did that, that's really me just saying I don't think my mother would approve of that if I did something like that. Right. So I always just try to live by that. And I think, you know, some people, I've seen some people where they had a loved one essentially die, and then their whole life is not only destroyed, but the relationship with everybody else in their family gets destroyed. And it's
Mhm.
because I think that you're like wrapped up in not only the bitterness and the sorrow and the pain, which is rightfully so. Like we're all going through that, but I think you start to think that you're the only one going through that. So you never really reach out and talk to another person who you know is going through the same experience. So you can kind of talk yourself through that, right? And then you start feeling sorry for yourself and you think that the world owes you. And the truth of the matter is that nobody owes you anything. Like you owe
No.
yourself,
Mhm.
and you owe your mother or your father or whoever it is who passed away in your family to be the best version of yourself. Because when my maker calls me and I'm at the pearly gates and my mother's there waiting for me and I'm meeting her again, um, it'll be disappointing if she says you didn't turn out the way that I raised you, or you didn't. I thought this experience and all the lessons that I taught you, you would have turned the corner to be a better version of yourself. But I didn't like how you did Kern in this situation. I didn't like how you did your wife in that, right? Like I don't ever want that to be my story, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, so that's how I deal with it. I try to make sure that I in any decisions that I make, I try to put forth um, the conversations that I would have had with my mom and how would she feel about that, right? Even just anything, right? Like how I'm raising my kid. would she approve of this? Even though you're your own parent, and you have to do what you want to do, but at the same token, like you turned out a certain way because of the way that your parents raised you.
Yes.
So if you think that you turned out to be a halfway decent person, then you can't scrap their whole playbook, because then you're really saying that you're not a decent person. That's my personal opinion, right? So I'm like, oh man, how did my mother do this with me? Okay, like, so she always made me do the dishes because she said it built character. And she said, just because you have a dishwasher doesn't mean you need to use it. Like, this is your responsibility. You dirty the dishes, you do it. So in my mind, that's what I'm going to do for my son. Like, you're not going to use the dishwasher every day.
Yeah.
There's going to be certain days that you need to do the dishes because you dirtied them, so you're going to use them, right? And so that's really my experience of kind of like dealing with death is really just getting to the root of my relationship with my mother and just remembering the good times, right? So I try never to. I only look at the great pictures that we had. Not. I never try to picture the funeral. I don't try to picture her in the hospital bed. I don't have those pictures. I don't picture her with the last conversation of I don't feel good. I the replays in my mind is always the happy times or the times that we came through something, but it turned out positive. Because I always want to see her as a shining light that she was. And the same for my father, right? And the same for him.
Mhm. What the last point you actually said about like seeing them in that light, that actually hits home with me, because I think of the experiences, but I think of how fragile life is, because literally that person was here today and let's just say gone tomorrow, right?
Mhm.
And it's a huge step. We as human beings still don't even understand death, right?
Absolutely.
And even when I've seen people in caskets and those things, like I don't look at them like that. I don't remember them like that. In my mind, I don't, when I picture them, I picture them being vibrant and for the experiences right beside me and teaching me a lesson if I fell and hurt my knee. And so what I do learn from it though is as life goes on and an experience comes up, quickly sayings will come back to you
Absolutely.
and you'll say, oh, I remember that. I
Mhm.
remember that. And you'll remember it for next time. And you'll pass that down through the generations to your kids. And
Absolutely.
they'll pass down those lessons as well to their kids. And so I think that's a huge uh, evolution in humanity and the psychology that actually goes on in the individuals, because that can happen, a death can happen and that could elevate some people and take them to
Mhm.
the next level, and they can say,
Absolutely.
you know what, I know how valuable my time is, right? I
Absolutely.
cannot waste it. I want um I forget what I was watching, and actually it was something on Netflix. And the mother says to the son, "You're 30. You're 32 now. You should be careful." And the son said, and he says, "Why?" And she goes, "Because Jesus died when he was 33." And so, um, and the son has a witty line like he is actually smarter than, and I would just said it's kind of ominous, you know what I mean, in terms
Yeah.
of the tone. But once again, that's a life lesson, right? The mother was trying to teach him a lesson, and he was saying, "No, I'm better than this, or I know better than this." Um, it is with every death, and this comes up, I think, continually, and part of the reason we started this channel is overcoming adversity, right?
Absolutely.
And that is like the pinnacle of when, especially one of these close individuals to you passes. It is a huge adversity moment. And what happens at that moment? Do you rise to the occasion? And it affects everybody different, right? It's no saying this is what you have to do. This is success in this situation. This isn't success, because no one knows what they will do in those situations. But it's all about getting through them and getting to the other side, right?
Absolutely.
And continuing to move forward with the progress, knowledge, and lessons that those individuals have taught you
Yeah.
through your lifetime.
You brought
And
something up, but Kern, you brought something up very, like you made a quick point, which I really want to touch on because it's pretty deep. You said you have to go through it. And I think that's the biggest problem. A lot of people try to go around it. So when you go around the problem, you never solve the problem. You don't even put a band-aid on the problem. So that's why that pain or that issue is always coming up to surface in all your relationships and everything that you do. But like it says in the Bible, like you have to go through the storm,
mhm.
right? You have to go through the eye of the storm. And when you go through it, that's where you're going to meet that adversity. That's where you're going to find out what you're made of, right? You're going to look at it in the eyes and say, I'm not going to give up. My parents put more in me. You know, I am the head and not the tail. I
Yeah.
am the king or the queen, right? And so you have to go through those life lessons in order to get to the other side. But what do they say? On the other side of fear is success, right? And I think that a lot of people are scared to go through it to really see what they're made out of, to get to the other side, to see what success really feels like and looks like. So
True.
that was very powerful that you said going through it, because I think that's the thing. You have to go through it. You can never go around it, right?
Yes. Yes. And regardless of the lessons that those individuals have taught, those actually coming back are actually the life lessons that they're teaching you, right? You have to go through. You can't circumvent the problem. It will continually come up, and that's a lesson that you actually haven't learned,
Mhm.
right? That's going to keep hitting you over the head until you actually learn it. Um, and I know people go in ebbs and flows with these things, but every single time it just reiterates to some of our discussions about whether it is life insurance, whether it is talking about this stuff beforehand. And I've actually had these discussions with some of my family members as well. But you can't be prepared for it, but you need to prepare others for it, for the wishes that you want and the lessons that you want to live on as your legacy,
Mhm.
right? Um, that is part of it in itself, that the individual that passes in a life lesson that they're learning is that they are passing on a legacy. And that's what you said even about your mother is like, yes, you are my legacy, right? And so it's, what can you be, and do you want to I guess live up to the expectations that you and them have set forward?
Yeah,
But it also changes even your relationships with those individuals you still have close to you,
absolutely.
because do you value them more,
Mhm.
right? And the way our society is, microwave society, here today, gone tomorrow. Oh, I like or like we put things on Facebook, Instagram just very quickly, and they literally pass, right? And they come up on the annual basis. Well, what think about the trajectory of your life. Have you changed that trajectory to get on the path that you believe is success and that the individual has taught you?
Yeah.
And so, like, that is, I think, one of the hardest things as a human being to do. And I tell my kids this, like, I don't mean it in a derogatory term, but when they do something right, I'm like, yes, that is great, thank you very much, I'm very happy for them. But then I say, you got to do that tomorrow,
Yeah.
and you got to do it the next day, because you have to change that trajectory, and you've overcome that hurdle, but it doesn't mean you come down. It just means you stepped up, right? You've reached a new level. And I feel like that is what those that have passed on have tried to teach us in terms of generations, is like, there's another level inside of you. There's another level inside of you that you don't even see, and they see.
Mhm. No, for sure. I think just to go just a little bit further as well, I think, or just wanted really to touch base on this is like if you are somebody who does have your parents or your loved ones, like, it's might sound cliche, but it's the truth. It's like give them their flowers while they're alive, because the one thing that we do know is that death doesn't knock on your door and say, "Hey, I'm coming next week to get you," right? Like for the most part, it just happens and it's a surprise, and it's devastating, right? So embrace that, embrace the life lessons that they try to give you, because one thing as young people that we get mad about is that um, are you mad at the lesson or are you mad at the delivery? Because I can tell you this, your parents, whatever lesson they give you, 9 out of 10 times is always going to come from the heart and is great intentions. Now the delivery might be a little messed up and jacked up,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, like, you have to know the difference. It's kind of like when we say our prayers and we pray to God to give us something. And how many of us miss that blessing because what we prayed for wasn't wrapped up in the Red Bull that we wanted.
Hmm.
He still gave us what we wanted, but we turned it down because it didn't look like what we wanted it to look like. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's like, Lord, I want a new car. And so he's blessing you with like a 2018 car, but you don't want that. You want the 2021.
Yeah.
But that 2021 might give you more headaches than that 2018. That 2018 might be the clear path, smooth. You don't have to sink any money into it or anything, right? So we really need to just give our parents or our loved ones the flowers while they're here. We need to just really embrace whatever that relationship goes. So, right, like sometimes you have your ups and your downs, but try never to go to sleep without saying I love you, because I tell you this. I've had some family members that when they died, they were in a fight with other family members, and that hurt more because they were never able to be on the right terms or on good terms when they passed away, or able to really say the proper goodbyes. And that really stings and stays with somebody. And you don't want to be that person. You want to make sure that you're always trying to be very respectful and have a good relationship. So if death comes knocking and it happens, at least you ended up on good terms, and the last word you said was I love you, and it wasn't I hate you or I can't stand you, or that relationship being tore up, right? Because you only get one mother and you only get one father, right? And when they're gone, believe you me, that's the kind of pain that you'll never feel again,
Hmm.
right? So
I agree. I'll just wrap it up with this. One of my mentors said, "You will always remember the day you can't tell your mother that you love her."
absolutely,
So
that is very
I
powerful.
try to say it as much as I can, and my parents didn't say it as much. Like it didn't stick out in my mind as much as I was when I was younger. But now we say it is. It seems like more than we've ever had. So
That's because you
um,
have kids now.
that's true too. That might be true too. Well, thank you for tuning in. Like, subscribe, and please feel free to comment down below. Cheers.
Cheers.